Ma'am, can I have the rest, just a little piece? Ilara Brooks almost choked on her last sip of orange juice. The child's voice jolted her from the melancholic trance she'd been in for nearly an hour, idly pushing around the plate of food she'd barely touched. She looked up and found a boy of about 8 standing beside her table, holding a folded napkin in his small, dirty hands. His clothes looked like they'd seen better days, a faded jersey of a local baseball team and shorts with a hole in the knee. But it was his eyes that completely disarmed her. Eyes far too watchful for his age, as if carrying the weight of responsibilities a child shouldn't know. "Of course, sweetie. You can sit here with me," Ilara said, pushing the plate to the center of the table. "What's your name?" "Finn," the boy replied, sliding into the chair opposite her with the agility of someone accustomed to adapting quickly. "Thank you, ma'am." Ilara watched as he ate with surprising politeness, chewing slowly, using the napkin to wipe his mouth. There was no desperation in his manner of eating, just a controlled, dignified hunger. "Aren't you going to eat?" Finn asked, noticing she was only observing him. "I already had lunch," Ilara lied. The truth was she hadn't felt hungry in weeks. Not since the divorce, not since she'd discovered what Ashton had done with the company, not since she'd begun to understand the scale of destruction her former surname had caused in so many lives. The boy nodded and continued eating. It was then that he unfolded the napkin he'd brought and held it out to her. "I made this for you." Ilara's heart pounded. On the napkin, drawn with impressive precision using only a common pencil, was her own face. Every line, every shadow, every expression of sadness she hadn't even known she carried. The drawing captured her not as the successful businesswoman she once was, but as the lost woman she had become. "My goodness, how did you—" she began, but the words caught in her throat. "My mom says I have a gift," Finn explained, shrugging naturally. "She taught me how to draw when I was little. She said it was important to know how to make something beautiful in the world." Ilara held the drawing carefully, as if it were a precious relic. No one had seen her like that in a long time. No one had truly seen her. "Your mother, where is she now?" "At the market. She sells dish towels she embroiders herself." Finn finished the last piece of potato and leaned back in his chair. "We just live wherever we can find a spot, wherever we can manage." The simplicity of the answer cut Ilara like a knife. Wherever we can manage. As if not having a home was the most natural thing in the world. "And school?" The boy's face closed off slightly. "Schools don't want us without a fixed address. My mom tried a lot of times." He lowered his eyes to his hands. "But she teaches me at home. I can read, I can do math, I can draw." Ilara felt something stir in her chest, a mix of shame and indignation she couldn't quite name. How many children like Finn were out there? How many families lost everything when Ashton decided to automate the supermarkets? "Finn, what was your mom's job before?" "She worked at Thornmart," the boy replied, not realizing how the name hit Ilara. "She was a supervisor for a long time, almost my whole life. Then those robots came and they laid everyone off all at once. My mom cried a lot." The world seemed to slow down around Ilara. Thornmart, her company, the empire that carried her former surname, the supermarket chain she had helped build, and that was now destroying lives like Finn's and his mother's. You know the name Thorn?" Finn studied her for a moment, his head tilted slightly. "It's the name of the company that fired my mom." "Why?" Ilara opened her mouth but couldn't form the words. How to explain to an 8-year-old child that she was one of the people responsible for his situation? How to say that the surname he pronounced with a mix of hurt and resignation was hers? Ilara's phone vibrated on the table. A message from Ashton. "Need to talk to you. It's about the Omnimart launch." "Can't wait." She turned off her phone without replying and returned her attention to Finn, who was observing her with curiosity. "Finn, can you take me to your mother?" The market operated in a vacant lot, far from the neighborhoods Ilara usually frequented. Finn walked ahead with the confidence of someone who knew every shortcut between the makeshift stalls. "Mom's over there at the end," he said, pointing to where the stall seemed the simplest. Ilara followed him, feeling curious glances. Her discreet attire didn't completely disguise who she was. Her haircut, her posture, her expensive shoes screamed upper middle class in an environment where every dollar made a difference. "Mom!" Finn ran ahead, waving to a woman organizing colorful cloths on a wooden table. Maya looked up and Alara felt the impact of seeing her. She must have been about 40, but seemed to carry the weight of a lifetime of hard work. Her hands calloused, her face marked by the sun, but there was a dignity in her posture that Alara recognized, the same that Finn carried. "Finn, you shouldn't be asking for food," Maya said, firm but affectionate. She offered, "Mom. Look." He showed the drawing. She liked it. Maya looked up at Alara. For a moment, the two studied each other in silence. "Good afternoon. I'm Alara. Your son is an incredible artist." "Maya, thank you for being kind to him." Alara looked at the embroideries on the table. Each one was a work of art, with delicate handmade flowers. "These embroideries are beautiful. Did you do all of them?" "I do what I know how to do. I learned from my mother. I never thought I'd have to live off of it." The pain in Maya's voice was subtle, but Alara caught it. It was the pain of someone who had to rebuild her life from scratch. "Finn told me about the difficulties. We've been through a lot and we're still going through it, but we don't need anyone's pity." Alara recoiled. There was wounded pride in those words. "It's not pity. It's genuine interest. Your son has extraordinary talent." Maya softened her expression. "Finn always loved to draw. When I still worked, I bought him supplies. Now we improvise." "Where did you work?" "Thornmart, 19 years as a supervisor. Until the day they said they didn't need us anymore. That machines did everything better." Ilara's heart sank. 19 years of life dedicated to the company that bore her former surname. "Maya, I need to tell you something." "Mom, can I go draw over there?" Finn interrupted. "You can, but stay where I can see you." When Finn walked away, Alara took a deep breath. "My full name is Alara Brooks. I used to be married to Ashton Thorne." Maya's face transformed. Surprise, then disbelief. "You're his wife?" "Ex-wife. We divorced 6 months ago, and I didn't know about the layoffs until it was too late." "Didn't know? How couldn't you know? It was your company too." "It was, but Ashton decided alone. When I found out, it had already happened. That was one of the things that ended our marriage." Maya was silent, processing. Her eyes went to Finn, who was drawing intently. "And now? Why are you here? To make yourself feel better?" "No. I mean, maybe at first, yes. But now I want to understand. I want to know what I can do to make it right." "Make it right?" Maya let out a bitter laugh. 19 years of lost work? My son without school, without a home? I don't know, but I want to try. "Why? Why now, just because you ran into my son?" "Because before you were just numbers, and now you have faces, names, stories, and I can't sleep anymore knowing I was part of this." Maya studied her for a long time. "They took my dignity, not just my salary. Do you understand that?" "I'm starting to understand." "Then you know you can't just come here with money and fix everything." "I know. Finn, let's go." "Already, Mom?" Alara felt panic. She couldn't let them leave like this. "Maya, wait. Give me a chance to show you this isn't about clearing my conscience." "How?" Alara looked at the embroideries. "Let me buy some dish towels and help Finn with drawing supplies. Not as charity, as a beginning. And then we'll see. One step at a time." Finn ran back with a new drawing. The market with 2 women talking and a boy drawing, smiling. "Aunt Alara, I made another one for you." Alara felt her eyes well up. "Thank you, Finn. It's beautiful." Maya looked at her son, then at Alara. "All right, but we do this our way. Understood?" Alara spent the entire night awake, looking at Finn's 2 drawings taped to her bedroom wall. The one of the market especially intrigued her. How could an 8-year-old child capture so much hope in simple lines? The next morning she went to a stationery store downtown. Not one of those expensive stores where she used to buy office supplies, but a simple establishment that sold everything from loose pencils to popular notebooks. "I'd like a complete drawing kit for a child," she told the salesman, a man in his 60s who looked at her over his glasses. "For what age?" 8 years old, but he's very talented." The man smiled and began to separate materials. Quality-colored pencils, crayons, sketch paper, erasers, sharpeners. Alara paid without haggling and asked for everything to be wrapped in colorful paper. Before going to the market, she stopped at the bank. She withdrew a sum of cash. Not much, just enough to buy some embroideries without seeming condescending. Maya had made it clear that dignity couldn't be bought, but honest work deserved fair compensation. The market was more bustling than the day before. Ilara found Maya in the same spot, but this time she wasn't alone. An older woman, with graying hair and a kind face, was helping organize the cloths. "Good morning," Ilara said, approaching slowly. "Good morning," Maya replied, clearly surprised to see her back. "This is my mother, Grandma Celeste. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Ilara." Grandma Celeste studied her with the experienced gaze of someone who had seen a lot in life. "You're the young lady who met Finn yesterday?" "Actually, he's the one who found me. My grandson has that gift. He finds the right people at the right time," the elderly woman said, smiling. "Are you looking for something specific?" Ilara showed the bag with the drawing materials. "I brought some things for Finn, and I'd like to buy some embroideries if that's possible." Maya crossed her arms. "I told you yesterday, no charity. And I'm not offering charity, I'm buying art." Ilara picked up 3 embroidered cloths, one with wildflowers, another with little birds, and a third with a delicate geometric pattern. They were truly beautiful, with impeccable finishing. "How much are they?" $15 each, Maya said, somewhat hesitantly. Ilara calculated mentally. In any home decor store at the mall, those embroideries would cost at least $50 each. That's too cheap for the quality of the work. It's what people around here pay. But I'm not people around here, and I recognize quality when I see it. Ilara took out a $100 bill and placed it on the table. "For the 3, plus a tip for the talent." "I can't accept that." Maya pushed the money back. "You can and you will. Because it's not a favor, it's justice. Your work is worth much more than you're charging." Grandma Celeste watched the discussion with interest, a small smile on her lips. "Maya, the young lady is right. Your embroideries are worth much more. You just don't have the courage to charge what you deserve." "Where's Finn?" Ilara asked, trying to break the tension. "At the community school nearby," Maya replied. "One of the volunteers managed to get him a temporary spot." "That's wonderful. He must be happy." "He is. But it's only until the end of the month. After that," Maya didn't finish the sentence. "After that, we'll find a way," Grandma Celeste completed. "We always do." Ilara felt a tightening in her chest. "We always do." As if improvising life was natural, acceptable. "Maya, can I ask you a question? How many people do you know who went through the same situation? Former Thornmart employees who were laid off?" "Many." "Why?" "Just curious." But it wasn't just curiosity. An idea was germinating in Ilara's mind, still vague but insistent. "Ilara," Grandma Celeste called her attention. "Can I say something?" "Of course. My daughter is proud. She had to be to survive. But she has a good heart. And Finn needs opportunities." "Mom," Maya began, but the elderly woman raised her hand. "Let me finish." She turned to Ilara. "I don't know what your intentions are, but if you're truly going to help, you need to understand one thing. We don't want pity. We want respect." "I understand." "Do you really understand? Because respect means listening before speaking, asking before deciding, and most importantly, not promising what you can't deliver." Ilara nodded, feeling the weight of the responsibility she was taking on. "Finn's here." Maya waved to a boy running toward them, a makeshift backpack on his back and a huge smile on his face. "Aunt Ilara," he shouted, even before getting close. "You came back." "I did, and I brought something for you." Finn's eyes sparkled when he saw the colorful bag. "For me? For you." He opened the wrapping carefully, as if it were a treasure. When he saw the drawing materials, he was silent for a moment, just looking. "Mom, look," he whispered, as if speaking loudly might break the spell. "I see, my son. What do you say to Aunt Ilara?" "Thank you," Finn said, looking directly at Ilara. "Now I can make even more beautiful drawings for you." And it was in that moment that Ilara knew. There was no turning back. She was completely involved in the lives of those people, and it would change everything. Ilara couldn't stop thinking about the question she'd asked Maya. How many former employees did she know? The answer, many, echoed in her mind as she drove back home. She decided to do something she hadn't done in months: enter the company's office. The Thornmart building was a monument to the corporate success she and Ashton had built together. But now, walking through the corridors she once knew like the back of her hand, Ilara felt like a stranger. "Ms. Brooks." The receptionist seemed surprised. "Mr. Thorne isn't in." "I came to get some of my things," Ilara lied. "I'm just going to my old office." The office that was once hers now served as a storage room. Boxes piled up, furniture covered by tarps. Ilara found what she was looking for: the human resources files she kept as a backup. She sat on the dusty floor and began reviewing the data: names, positions, years of service. As she read, the true dimension of the destruction caused by the layoffs became apparent. They weren't just numbers, they were lives. People like Maya, with decades of dedication, simply discarded. Her phone rang. "Ashton." "Ilara, they told me you're at the office." "I am. Came to pick up some things. I need to talk to you, it's important." "Talk? In person? Can you come to my office?" Ilara hesitated. She hadn't spoken to Ashton in person since signing the divorce papers. 5 minutes. The CEO's office was even more luxurious than before. Ashton, impeccable as always, was gesturing as he spoke on the phone about resource optimization and operational efficiency. When he saw her, he ended the call. "Ilara." What a surprise. "Ashton." They stared at each other in silence for a moment. A year ago, they were partners in life and business. Now they could barely be in the same room. "I heard you've been visiting some former employees." Ilara felt her blood run cold. How did he know? So what? "It's complicated, Ilara. We're launching OmniMart in 6 months. Any move that looks like regret could affect our investors." "Regret?" "You know how it is. The press always looks for a dramatic story. CEO's ex-wife helping laid-off employees. It might look like we're admitting fault." Ilara studied him, incredulous. "Admitting fault? Ashton, we made a mistake. We did what was necessary for the company to survive. Automation is the future. What about the people? What happens to the people? People adapt. They always have." Ilara thought of Finn. Drawings made with a worn pencil, sleeping in shelters. Of Maya, embroidering late into the night to earn market money. Of Grandma Celeste, who said they always found a way, as if living in uncertainty was natural. "I know an 8-year-old child who has nowhere to live because his mother was laid off after 19 years working for us. Do you think she'll adapt?" "Ilara, you've always been too emotional for business. And you've always been too cold to be human." Ashton sighed. "Look, I know you want to help. It's in your nature. But you can't do it using the Thorne name. It will confuse the market." "The Thorne name is mine too." It was. "Now you're Ilara Brooks again, remember?" The coldness in his voice hit her like a slap. It was true. She had reverted to her maiden name after the divorce. But it sounded as if Ashton was not only stripping her of the surname, but of all her right to care about what they had built together. "Ashton, can I ask you a question?" "Sure. Do you sleep well at night?" He frowned. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Because I don't sleep. Ever since I found out what we did to these people, I can't close my eyes without seeing their faces." "Ilara." "No, let me finish. You may have taken my name off the company, but you can't take away my responsibility. Those people worked for us, for both of us, and I'm going to do something to help. Even if it harms the OmniMart launch?" Ilara looked out the window. From the top of the building, she could see the market in the distance, tiny on the horizon. "Especially if it harms the OmniMart launch." Ashton stood up, clearly irritated. "You can't do this, Ilara. Can you sue me?" "I can try." "Then try." Ilara headed for the door but stopped before leaving. "Ashton, remember when we started? You said we wanted to build something that would make a difference in people's lives. And we did. We created jobs, boosted the economy. And now? What are we building now?" She left without waiting for an answer, but the question echoed in the air. Ilara arrived home with her head buzzing. The files she had taken from the office were scattered across the kitchen table. Hundreds of names, interrupted stories, lives she needed to know. She picked up the phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in months. Clara? It's me, Ilara. Ilara, wow, it's been a while. How are you? Clara Montgomery was a labor lawyer, one of the best in the city. They had met at a charity event years ago and kept in sporadic contact. Complicated. Clara, I need a favor. Or rather, I need professional help. Of course. What's it about? Ilara took a deep breath. Mass layoffs, labor irregularities, and possibly something bigger. Ilara, can you be more specific? I'd prefer to talk in person. Can you see me tomorrow? I can. But give me a hint of what we're talking about. Thornmart. The silence on the other end of the line was eloquent. I understand. 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon at my office. Ilara hung up and returned to the files. Each name represented a family, a story, like Maya and Finn's. How many children were out of school? How many people were sleeping in shelters? Her phone vibrated. A message from Maya. Finn wants to show you a drawing he made with the new materials. Can you stop by the market tomorrow? Ilara smiled for the first time that day. Of course, what time? In the morning, whenever you can. The next morning, Ilara found Finn beaming at the market, holding a drawing that left her speechless. It was her, but not as she saw herself in the mirror. It was an idealized version, with a genuine smile and bright eyes. Did you like it? I liked it a lot. But why did you draw me like this? Like what? Happy. Finn tilted his head thoughtfully. Because you're going to be happy. My mom says good people always end up happy. The simplicity of the answer deeply touched Ilara. Finn, can I ask you a question? Would you like to have a real school? With a fixed teacher, a library, supplies always available? The boy's eyes lit up. Of course. But my mom said it's hard without an address. What if it wasn't hard? Maya approached carrying a shopping bag. Good morning, Ilara. What are you two talking about? About school for Finn. Ilara, we've talked about this. I don't want to get his hopes up. What if it wasn't hope? What if it was planning? Maya studied her suspiciously. What kind of planning? Ilara looked around the market, saw the tired but dignified faces of the vendors, thought of the files in her house. Maya, how many former Thornmart employees do you know who have school-aged children? Several. Why? And how many have difficulty finding work because they were laid off without just cause? Most of them. Ilara, what are you getting at? Creating opportunities. School for the children, professional training for the adults, space for people like you to sell your work for its real value. Maya sat heavily on a crate. Ilara, this is too much. Too big. It only seems big because we're thinking of doing everything at once. But if we start slowly, with what money? With mine. And when your money runs out? It was a fair question. Ilara didn't have a ready answer. I don't know. But I know I can't stand by and watch you struggle alone. Grandma Celeste, who had overheard the conversation, approached. Girl, have you talked to other families about this? Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. Then talk. But really talk. Sit with people, listen to their stories, understand their needs, don't build castles in the air. You're right. And one more thing. If you're going to do it right. Don't start and stop halfway, because then it hurts more than it helps. Ilara nodded. Grandma Celeste was right. If she was going to do it, it had to be serious, sustainable, real. Maya, would you be willing to introduce me to other families? Not to promise anything, but to talk? Maya looked at Finn, who was playing with the new colored pencils, then at her mother, who nodded almost imperceptibly. I'll do it, but on one condition. Which is? You stop talking about creating opportunities and start talking about working together. Because if it's going to be real, it has to be together. Ilara extended her hand. Working together, then. As they shook hands, Ilara felt she was sealing something much greater than a simple agreement. Clara Montgomery's office was in a discreet commercial building downtown. Ilara arrived promptly at 3, carrying a folder with the files she had copied from Thornmart. Ilara, you're different, Clara observed, hugging her friend. More determined. I'm going through some changes. They sat in the meeting room, and Ilara began to tell the whole story. The encounter with Finn, Maya, the discovery of the files, the confrontation with Ashton. Let me see those documents, Clara requested, As the lawyer analyzed the papers, Ilara watched her expression gradually change from curiosity to concern. Ilara, this is very serious. What did you find? Irregularities in the layoffs first. Lack of adequate notice, incorrectly calculated severance. But that's just the beginning. Clara pointed to a specific spreadsheet. Look at this transfer here. 3 days before the layoffs, there was a suspicious financial movement. A significant amount was transferred to an offshore company. What does that mean? It could mean many things: tax evasion, money laundering, or simply aggressive tax planning. But coupled with the layoffs, it looks like Ashton knew he was going to need to cut costs to cover something. Exactly. Ilara, are you sure you want to get into this? Because if we're right, this goes far beyond labor irregularities. Ilara thought of Finn, of the drawing of her smiling. I'm sure. Then we're going to need help. I know a forensic accountant and an investigative journalist. Trustworthy people. Do you think Ashton found out we're investigating? He'll certainly find out. The question is, what will he do when he finds out? As if in answer to the question, Ilara's phone rang. Ashton. Answer it, Clara said. But put it on speaker. Ilara, we need to talk. Urgent. About what? About the foolish things you've been doing. I heard you're looking for a lawyer. Ilara looked at Clara, who gestured for her to continue. What if I am? You're playing with fire. You don't know everything that's involved in this. Then tell me. In person. Can you come here now? I can't. I'm busy. Ilara, I'm trying to protect you. Protect me from what? Silence on the other end. Ashton? Protect me from what? From yourself. You've always been too idealistic. Some situations are more complex than they seem. What situations? Come here and we'll talk. No. Talk now or don't talk. Another silence. Longer this time. There are very powerful people involved in the OmniMart project. People who don't like complications. What kind of people? The kind who resolve problems efficiently. Ilara felt a chill. Ashton, are you threatening me? I'm warning you. There's a difference. Not to me, there isn't. Ilara hung up the phone. Her hands were trembling slightly. People who resolve problems efficiently, Clara repeated. Ilara, this isn't just about irregular layoffs anymore. What do you think we should do? First, you go home and don't go out alone for the next few days. Second, I'm going to accelerate the investigation. And third, you're going to have to decide if you really want to go all the way. Because from now on, there's no turning back. Ilara looked out the window. Below, the city continued its normal pace. People coming and going, living their lives unaware that decisions made in rooms like that could change everything. Clara, can I tell you something? Of course. For the first time in months, I feel useful. Ever since I met Finn and Maya, I feel like my life has purpose again. And are you willing to risk everything for that? Ilara thought about the question she'd asked Ashton. What are we building now? I'm not risking everything. I'm fighting to reclaim everything I lost when I stopped caring about people. Clara smiled. Then let's get to work. But Ilara, yes? From now on, be careful who you trust. Ilara woke up to her phone ringing insistently. 7 in the morning. Clara. Ilara, have you seen the news? What news? I just woke up. Turn on the TV, channel 12. Ilara ran to the living room and turned on the television. Her heart stopped when she saw the headline, Ex-wife of executive exploits child's image to clear conscience. On the screen, an anchor talked about her while displaying photos of her with Finn at the market. The images were clearly edited to look posed, artificial. Ilara, are you there? Clara's voice echoed through the phone. I am. How did they get those photos? Someone was following you. And it's not just on TV. It's on social media too. Ilara picked up her laptop. Her name was among the trending topics. The posts were cruel. Rich executive uses poor child for personal marketing. Ilara Brooks, the new face of social hypocrisy. The worst were the comments. Hundreds of people who didn't know her, judging her intentions, questioning her sincerity. Clara, I need to go to the market. Talk to Maya and Finn. Ilara, no, that's exactly what they want. For you to appear in public now. But they'll see these news stories. They'll think that you were using them? Ilara, do you really think Maya and Grandma Celeste will believe that? Ilara took a deep breath. Clara was right, but anxiety gnawed at her stomach. What do I do? Nothing. For now, nothing. Let the dust settle. But the dust didn't settle. All morning, reporters called her landline. Someone had leaked her address and a news van was parked in front of her building. At 2 in the afternoon, when Ilara was on the verge of despair, she received an unexpected message. It was from Maya. You can come to the market. Back door. I have something to show you. Ilara left her apartment through the back entrance of the building, hailed an Uber, and asked the driver to take a roundabout route before heading to the market to ensure she wasn't being followed. She found Maya at the agreed spot along with Grandma Celeste and Finn. The boy ran to hug her. Aunt Ilara, why are they telling lies about you on TV? Because some people don't like it when we try to help each other, my dear. That's nonsense, Finn said indignantly. You're good. I know because I drew you. Maya approached carrying a bag. Ilara, I have something to show you. It was an old notebook with yellowed pages. What is this? A list of all the former employees I know. Names, addresses, current situation. I've been talking to a lot of people since yesterday. Ilara leafed through the notebook. Dozens of names, stories summarized in a few lines. John Davis, doorman for 15 years, now does odd jobs as a security guard. 3 children. Anna Perez, cashier for 8 years, husband unemployed, lost her home. Maya, why did you do this? Because you'll need it. If you really want to help, you need to know everyone. And everyone needs to know you. The real you, not this lie on TV. Grandma Celeste approached. Ilara, can I give you some advice? Of course. When people attack you like this, it's because they're scared. And when they're scared, it's because you're on the right path. But what if they're right? What if I'm really doing this to clear my conscience? Are you? Grandma Celeste asked, directly. Ilara thought for a moment. No, I mean maybe it started that way. But now it's different. Then there you go. If you know the truth, it doesn't matter what they say. Finn tugged at Ilara's sleeve. Aunt, I made a new drawing for you. It was a simple drawing, several people holding hands, forming a circle. In the center, a smiling child. It's us, Finn explained. Everyone together, taking care of each other. Ilara felt her eyes well up. It's beautiful, Finn. Keep it. When they tell lies about you, look at the drawing and remember that we know who you really are. Maya touched Ilara's arm. There's one more thing. Several families want to meet you. Not to ask for anything, but to talk. To tell their stories. When? Tomorrow night. At Ruth's house, a former supervisor. She lives in a neighborhood nearby. Ilara nodded, feeling a mix of nervousness and determination. Maya, can I ask you something? Of course. Why do you trust me? After everything that happened, why didn't you believe what they're saying on TV? Maya smiled for the first time since they had met. Because you cried when you saw Finn's drawing. People who are pretending don't really cry. And you really cried. When Ilara left the market that afternoon, she carried Maya's notebook and Finn's drawing. But most importantly, she carried the certainty that, even amidst the storm, she had found her compass. Ruth's house was in a simple neighborhood, with narrow streets and houses crammed together. Ilara arrived at 7 in the evening, carrying a bag with bread from the local bakery. Maya had suggested she bring something to share. You must be Ilara, said a woman in her 50s, opening the door. I'm Ruth. Come in, please. The small living room was full. Ilara quickly counted. 16 people, including adults and some children. All former Thorn Mart employees or their family members. The atmosphere was tense but not hostile. Everyone, this is Ilara, Ruth announced. Maya has already told you the story. Ilara looked around. Tired faces but attentive. Some suspicious, others curious. Good evening. Thank you for having me. A man in his 40s with calloused hands spoke first. I'm John. I worked in the warehouse for 12 years. I want to understand one thing. Why now? Why do you care now? It was a direct question, without beating around the bush. Because before you were invisible to me, and now you're not. And what changed? Ilara thought of Finn, of the first drawing. I met Maya's son. I saw that he has talent, dreams, but no opportunities. And I realized that there are many children like him. A young woman raised her hand. I'm Anna. I was a cashier for 6 years. I have 2 young daughters. What exactly do you intend to do? I don't know yet. That's why I'm here. To listen. Listening is good, Ruth said. But listening doesn't pay the rent. Some people laughed. The atmosphere began to relax. You're right, Ilara admitted. Listening is just the first step. But without listening properly, anything I do will be wrong. An elderly man spoke up. I'm Walter, 42 years with the company. I started as a stock clerk, ended up as a manager. I want to ask a question. Aren't you afraid of your ex-husband? I am. Very. Then why are you here? Ilara looked at the children present, sitting on the floor, some drawing, others listening to the conversation seriously. Because being afraid and doing the right thing are not mutually exclusive. Maya, who had been quiet until then, stood up. Everyone, I've known Ilara for a week. I know it's not long, but one thing I've learned in life. You recognize sincerity when you see it. And what did you see? John asked. I saw her paying a fair price for my embroideries without me asking. I saw her bringing supplies for Finn without wanting anything in return. And I saw her coming here even with all that commotion on TV. Anna shook her head. All right, let's suppose she's sincere. What can we do? We're just a bunch of unemployed people. You're not just unemployed, Ilara said, leafing through the notebook Maya had given her. You're managers, supervisors, experienced cashiers, stock clerks who know logistics. You are decades of accumulated knowledge. Knowledge that's useless if no one wants to hire people our age, John grumbled. What if you didn't need to be hired? What if you created something of your own? The silence in the room was absolute. Like what? Ruth asked. I don't know yet. But you know how a supermarket works better than any expensive consultant. You know what customers want, what works, what doesn't. Walter leaned forward. Are you talking about opening a competing business with Thornmart? I'm talking about creating alternatives. Places where people are valued, not replaced by machines. One of the children, a girl about 10 years old, raised her hand. Can I say something? Of course, Ilara said. My dad always said that working at Thornmart was good because it helped people buy food. He was proud of that. And how is he now? Ilara asked gently. Sad, because he doesn't help anyone anymore. Ilara felt a lump in her throat. What if we could create a place where your dad could help people again? The girl's eyes sparkled. That would be cool. Ruth clapped her hands. All right, let's stop dreaming and talk seriously. How much money do you have to invest in this? Enough to start, but not enough to sustain it forever. Then how would it work? By making it work. Creating something sustainable that generates income for everyone. John crossed his arms. What if it doesn't work? Then at least we tried together. People exchanged glances. Ilara could feel something changing in the room. All right, Ruth finally said. Let's say we're in. What happens next? Ilara smiled. Then we figure that out together. Because I have no idea how to do this alone. When the meeting ended 2 hours later, Ilara had a list of volunteers and a new feeling. For the first time, she wasn't alone in this fight. Ilara woke up to her phone ringing incessantly. It was 7 in the morning. Clara. Ilara, you need to come to my office now. What happened? Ashton got an injunction against you, and that's not all, just get here. Ilara dressed quickly and left. On the way, she tried to call Maya, but her phone was out of range. A bad feeling grew in her chest. At Clara's office, she found not only the lawyer, but also a man she didn't know. Ilara, this is Robert Campos, an investigative journalist. He has important information. Robert stood up to greet her. Ms. Brooks, what I'm about to tell you will shock you. We discovered that OmniMart isn't just an automated chain. What do you mean? It's a money laundering operation. Your ex-husband is involved with a group of international investors who use American companies to clean capital from dubious sources. Ilara sat down heavily. Are you sure? Absolutely. And there's more. The mass layoffs weren't just cost-cutting. They were to eliminate witnesses to irregularities that had been happening for years. Clara placed some papers on the table. Ilara, the injunction Ashton obtained prohibits you from approaching any former Thornmart employee. If you violate it, you could be arrested. On what grounds? Allegations of harassment and improper use of minors' images. He's claiming you're manipulating the families. Ilara felt the world spin. What about Finn? What about Maya? Included in the prohibition? That's absurd. How could a judge— The judge who signed it is known for being influenced, Robert said. We have reasons to believe Ashton has powerful contacts in the judiciary as well. Ilara stood up and began pacing the room. So it's over? He won? Not necessarily, Clara said. We'll appeal the injunction, but it will take time. And in the meantime, you cannot communicate with any of the families. Ilara's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Ilara? It was Grandma Celeste's voice. Low, whispered. Grandma Celeste, how did you get my number? Maya gave it to me. Ilara, something terrible happened. Ilara's heart pounded. What? People came to the market this morning. They said Maya was selling counterfeit products. They took all her merchandise. Took it where? We don't know. And there's more. They said if any of us talk to you, we'll have problems with the IRS. Ilara looked at Clara and Robert, who were listening to the conversation on speakerphone. Grandma Celeste, where are you now? At Ruth's house, but Ilara, Finn is very scared. He doesn't understand why suddenly you can't talk to him anymore. The elderly woman's voice trembled. He thinks he did something wrong, that his drawings caused trouble for you. Ilara felt tears burn her eyes. Tell him it wasn't anything he did. Tell him that. Ilara, Clara interrupted her, pointing to the phone. Be careful. Grandma Celeste, I can't talk much right now, but I want you to know, this isn't over. And how will we know about you? Ilara looked at Robert. Mr. Robert will be our contact. Anything, call him. After Grandma Celeste hung up, the room was silent. Ashton isn't playing, Robert said. He's using all the power he has. So what do? We fight, Clara said, but intelligently. Robert, tell her about the dossier. Robert leaned forward. Ilara, we have enough evidence to destroy your ex-husband. Documents, recordings, witnesses. But we need to be strategic. How? We'll leak the information gradually. First to destabilize investor confidence in Omnimart. Then, when he's vulnerable, we'll reveal everything. And in the meantime, the families are left helpless. No, Clara said. In the meantime, you're going to do something he doesn't expect. What? You're going to officially register the Living Roots Foundation. You're going to make this bigger than you, bigger than him. A formal institution with lawyers and accountant bylaws. Ilara stopped pacing. Do you think it will work? I think it's our only chance, Robert said. Ashton can intimidate a resentful ex-wife, but it will be harder to intimidate a foundation with an EIN, a board of directors, and press support. What if he finds out? He will, Clara said. The question is, when he finds out, will you already be strong enough to face him? Ilara looked out the window. Downstairs, the city continued its rhythm, oblivious to the silent war unfolding. How much time do we have? To register the foundation? A week, Clara said. For the first leak? 2 days, Robert said. Ilara took a deep breath. Then let's start. But I want one thing. When this is over, I want Finn to know that his drawings didn't cause any trouble. That, in fact, they saved everyone. A week later, Ilara was in a notary's office downtown, signing the last documents to formalize the Living Roots Foundation. Clara was by her side, checking every clause of the bylaws. Done, said the clerk. The foundation is officially registered. Ilara felt a mix of relief and apprehension. It was real now. There was no turning back. Clara, has Robert published the first article? Yesterday. Labor irregularities at Thornmart. Nothing too explosive yet, but enough to plant doubt. And the reaction? The company's shares dropped 3%. Ashton must be nervous. Ilara's phone vibrated. Robert. Ilara, I need to talk to you. Urgent. What is it? I managed to contact a former Thornmart accounting employee. She has documents that could change everything. Where is she? Scared. Wants guarantees before speaking. What kind of guarantees? Legal protection. And a promise that what she reveals will be used to help the former employees, not just to destroy Ashton. Ilara looked at Clara. Can we offer that? I can draft a commitment agreement. But Ilara, if she has what Robert thinks she has, This will accelerate things significantly. Accelerate how? Ashton will know we have privileged information. He'll go on full attack. 2 hours later, Ilara was in a discreet cafe in the West End, waiting for a woman she only knew by name. Serena Davis, former accounting coordinator, laid off 4 months ago. Serena arrived promptly. She was a woman in her mid-40s, well-dressed, but with an expression of someone carrying an enormous weight. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me," Ilara said. "Robert told me about your foundation. Is it true you want to help the former employees?" "It's true. Even knowing it could destroy your own life?" Ilara thought of Finn, of the drawing she could no longer see, of Grandma Celeste's frightened voice. Especially because of that. Serena sighed and placed a USB drive on the table. "Here's everything. 3 years of suspicious financial movements. Transfers to offshore accounts, fake invoices, systemic tax evasion. Why did you keep this?" "Because I knew I'd need it someday." Ashton was always too arrogant. He thought no one paid attention to what he did. "And you did?" "I did. And I copied everything." Serena pushed the USB drive toward Ilara. "But there's one condition." "Which is?" "I want to be part of the foundation. I want to help rebuild what Ashton destroyed." Ilara smiled for the first time in days. "It would be an honor to have you with us." When Serena left, Ilara immediately called Robert. "Do we have what we need?" "We have much more than that. Ilara, with this information we can not only stop Omnimart, but also get compensation for all the former employees." "How long to organize everything?" 48 hours, but Ilara?" "Yes?" "Ashton will know it was Serena who leaked. She's at risk. Then we have to be quick. And you need to prepare yourself. When this explodes, he'll do everything to destroy you." Ilara was driving back home when she received a call from an unknown number. "Hello? Ilara?" It was a child's voice, muffled. "Finn? How did you get my number?" "I got it from Grandma Celeste's little notebook." "Aunt Ilara, you disappeared." Ilara's heart broke. "I know, my dear. But it wasn't because I wanted to. Was it because of my drawings?" "No, Finn. It was never because of your drawings. Your drawings are the most beautiful thing that has ever happened in my life. Then why can't you come here anymore?" Ilara pulled over the car. How to explain the legal complexities of a judicial injunction to an 8-year-old child? "Finn, do you remember when you told me your mom taught that it was important to make beautiful things in the world?" "I remember." "Well then, I'm trying to do something beautiful. But to do that, I need to stay away for a little while." "How long?" "I don't know. But I want you to know one thing. Everything I'm doing is because of what you taught me. I taught you something. You taught me to truly see. And now I'm using that vision to help many people. Like me. Exactly like you." "Aunt Ilara?" "Yes?" "I'm making a new drawing. It's of you beating the bad guys." Ilara smiled through her tears. "Keep that drawing for me, okay? Because I'm going to need it soon." When she hung up, Ilara knew there was no more hesitation. In 48 hours, the war would be open, and she was ready. Ilara woke up on Wednesday to her phone vibrating incessantly. It was 6 in the morning. "Robert." "Ilara, it's out. The story is out." "And?" "It's the bombshell we expected. Documents reveal money laundering scheme at Thornmart. The website is down from so much traffic." Ilara rushed to her computer. The headline was on the front page of all major news portals. In a few hours, the scandal had spread like wildfire. At 9 in the morning, Clara called. "Ilara, Ashton contacted me. He wants to meet with you." "What?" "But he himself got the injunction." Apparently, when the house is on fire, injunctions become minor details. "What did he say?" "That you need to resolve this like civilized adults." His words. "And you think I should go?" "I think you should go. But with your lawyer in a public place and with everything recorded." 2 hours later, Ilara was in an upscale cafe in the city's affluent district, waiting for the man she had been married to for 8 years. Ashton arrived promptly, but seemed to have aged 10 years in a week. "Ilara." "Ashton." He sat down, ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she knew well. It meant extreme nervousness. "You know why I asked to meet." "I imagine. I need you to stop this." "Stop what?" "The truth? This revenge. Because that's what it is, isn't it? Revenge." Ilara studied him. There was desperation in his eyes. "Ashton, do you really believe this is revenge? What else would it be? Justice." Ashton laughed, but it was a humorless laugh. "Justice? Alara, you're going to destroy hundreds of indirect jobs, sink the pensions of retirees who invested in the company, harm suppliers? You did that when you laid off almost 1,000 people without notice. I was saving the company. You were stealing from the company." The silence at the table was tense. Ashton looked around as if checking who might be listening. "Alara, if you stop now, I can reverse the layoffs, hire everyone back." "With what money?" "What you didn't launder has already been invested in OmniMart. I'll find a way." "Ashton, you're lying. To me and to yourself." He leaned across the table. "Alara, you don't understand who you're messing with. The OmniMart investors, they're not people who accept losing money quietly. Are you threatening me again? I'm warning you, for the last time." Alara stood up. "Ashton, remember when we met? You said you wanted to build something that would make a difference in people's lives. And we did. You built a money-making machine on the suffering of others. I refuse to be a part of that. Even if it destroys you too? Especially if it destroys who I became by working with you." Ashton watched her for a long moment. "You've changed, Alara." "I've changed. For the better. For the worse. You were pragmatic. Rational. Now I'm human." When Alara left the cafe, she knew she had burned the last bridge. There was no more negotiation possible. On the way home, she received a call from an unknown number. "Hello? Alara, this is Ruth." "Ruth, how are you all?" "Scared but determined. We saw the news. Everyone's talking about it." "And how are you feeling?" "Relieved. Finally, someone is telling the truth about what that man did to us." "Ruth, I need to tell you. Things might get harder before they get better." "We know. But Alara, I want to tell you something. No matter what happens, you've already changed our lives." "How so?" "You gave us something we had lost. Hope that there are people who care." When Alara arrived home, she found Clara and Robert waiting at the building entrance. "What are you two doing here?" "Protecting you," Robert said. "The threats have started. Ashton isn't bluffing about the investors." "What kind of threats?" "The kind that makes us hire security," Clara said. Alara looked at the two of them. A week ago, she was alone. Now she had people willing to risk themselves for her. "You know you don't have to do this, right?" "We know," Robert said. "But we also know that some fights are worth fighting." "And this one is?" "Ask Finn when all this is over," Clara said, smiling. That night, Alara slept with the certainty that she had chosen the right side of history, even if it cost her everything she had. On Friday morning, Alara woke up to insistent knocking at the door. It was 8 in the morning, and she wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, she saw 2 men in suits. Federal agents. Search and seizure warrant. Alara opened the door, her heart pounding. "Search and seizure for what?" "Documents related to allegations of extortion and defamation against Thornmart." "But Ma'am, we need to search the house. You have the right to have a lawyer present." Alara immediately called Clara, who arrived in 20 minutes visibly concerned. "Alara, this is retaliation. Ashton is using his contacts at the FBI. The agents ransacked the house for 3 hours. They took her computer, documents, even Finn's drawings that Alara cherished." "Why the drawings?" she asked, almost crying. "Evidence of using a minor's image for personal gain," one of the agents replied emotionlessly. When they left, Alara sat on the floor of the empty living room and cried. Clara tried to comfort her. "Alara, this is a charade. Ashton is desperate. But what if it works? What if they manage to incriminate me?" "They won't, because the truth is on our side." Clara's phone rang. "Robert." "Clara, put it on speaker." "I have important news." "Speak, Robert." "First, the good news. The IRS has opened an official investigation into Thornmart, based on our allegations." "And the bad?" "Ashton moved up OmniMart's launch to Monday. He's trying to create a fait accompli before the investigation progresses." "How did he manage to accelerate so much?" "He didn't. OmniMart isn't ready. It's a desperate act." Alara stood up. "Robert, can you find out where the launch will be?" "I can." "Why?" "Because I'm going to be there." Ilara, are you crazy? Clara said. You have an injunction against you, and I have a registered foundation that represents harmed former employees. I have a legal right to protest. It's too risky. Clara, this has been risky from the beginning, but now it's not just about me. That afternoon, Ilara received an unexpected call. Ilara, this is Serena. Serena, how are you? In hiding, but I needed to talk to you. I have information that could change everything. What? Ashton didn't get full funding for OmniMart. He's desperate because if he doesn't launch on Monday, the investors will pull their money. How do you know? Because my former department head still works there. Ashton asked him to falsify financial reports for the event. Ilara felt a spark of hope. Serena, can you prove that? I already did. I recorded the conversation. You recorded? Ilara, when Ashton fired me, he said I was too easy to replace. Well, some conveniences have their uses. Ilara almost laughed. It was the first time she had felt like laughing in days. Serena, can you meet me? I can, but it has to be discreet. 2 hours later, Ilara was in a mall parking lot, listening to the recording Serena had made. In the recording, Ashton clearly instructed an employee to alter numbers to impress investors. Serena, is it enough to arrest him for fraud? Yes. Robert needs to hear this. I've already sent it to him. But Ilara, there's something else you need to know. What? At Monday's event, Ashton will announce that OmniMart will absorb all former Thornmart employees. A lie, of course, but it will make it seem like he's correcting his mistakes. He can't do that. He can and he will, unless someone stops him. Ilara looked at Serena. Would you be willing to do something crazy? After everything I've been through? Ilara, I'm willing to do almost anything. Then help me show up at the OmniMart launch. How? You're prohibited from approaching. But you're not. And neither is the Living Roots Foundation. Serena smiled slowly. You want me to take you as a foundation assistant? I want you to be the official representative of the foundation. With power of attorney, credentials, everything in order. And you? I'll be your press liaison. Serena laughed for the first time since Ilara had met her. Ilara, you know this could go very wrong, right? I know. But I also know that if we do nothing, Ashton will manage to deceive everyone once again. And if we succeed? If we succeed, Monday will be the last day Ashton Thorne deceives anyone. When Ilara arrived home that night, she was no longer afraid. She had a plan. And for the first time in weeks, she felt truly in control of the situation. Monday, 9 in the morning. The Grand Convention Center was packed for the OmniMart launch. Ilara arrived with Serena, both professionally dressed, carrying Living Roots Foundation credentials that Clara had managed to get approved at the last minute. Nervous? Serena asked. Terrified. And you? Me too. But we'll do this. The main hall was filled with journalists, investors, and dignitaries. Ashton commanded everything from the stage, wearing his best suit, smiling with his usual confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice echoed through the hall. Today marks the beginning of a new era in American retail. Ilara and Serena positioned themselves strategically near the press microphones. Robert was present, discreetly filming everything. OmniMart represents efficiency, modernity, and social responsibility. Ilara almost choked on the last part. Therefore, I am pleased to announce that all former Thornmart employees will have priority for re-employment in our new establishments. A murmur of approval swept through the hall. Ilara saw several journalists furiously writing notes. It was now or never. She stood up. Mr. Thorne, I have a question. Ashton located her in the hall, and his face instantly paled. You are Ilara Brooks, director of the Living Roots Foundation, which represents former Thornmart employees. Technically, she wasn't lying. Ilara had reverted to her maiden name, and the foundation truly represented her. I would like to know how you intend to hire people in 100% automated stores. Well, it will be a gradual process. Mr. Thorne, Ilara interrupted, Serena handing her a paper. We have documents here that show OmniMart lacks the financial resources for these hirings. In fact, according to our information, the project is technically bankrupt. The silence in the hall was absolute. Ashton tried to maintain his composure. This information is incorrect and it's based on recordings of internal company meetings. Serena stood up next to Ilara. Recordings where you instruct employees to falsify financial reports. The murmur in the hall turned into an uproar. Cameras turned towards the stage. Ashton was visibly nervous. This is a charade orchestrated by my ex-wife to... Mr. Thorne, Ilara interrupted him again. 8 years ago I was your wife. Today I am simply a citizen who refuses to see families deceived again. Robert approached with a microphone. Mr. Thorne, do you confirm that you laid off almost 1,000 employees to conceal accounting irregularities? I will not answer. Do you confirm that you used automation as an excuse to eliminate witnesses of money laundering? This is absurd. Ilara looked around the hall. She saw representatives from the IRS standing up. She saw investors whispering, concerned. She saw journalists broadcasting live. Mr. Thorne, she said, her voice firm and clear. Do you remember when you told me I was too emotional for business? Ashton stared at her, pure hatred in his eyes. I remember. Well then, today I discovered that there is something more important than being rational in business, being human with people. Ilara, you don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm giving a voice to those who were silenced. Like Maya, who worked 19 years for you. Like Finn, who at 8 years old already knows what injustice is. Like hundreds of families who lost everything while you illegally enriched yourself. Ilara's voice echoed through the silent hall. Omnimart may be the future of retail, but it will not be built on the ruins of human lives. Ashton tried one last desperate move. Ladies and gentlemen, this woman is violating a court order. She is prohibited from... The Living Roots Foundation is not prohibited from anything. Clara appeared next to Ilara, carrying documents. And we have judicial authorization here to represent the interests of the harmed former employees. It was then that Ilara saw them. At the back of the hall, discreetly, were Maya, Grandma Celeste, and Finn. The boy saw her too and waved, holding something in his hands. It was a drawing. Even from a distance, Ilara could see. It was her on stage speaking into the microphone with a huge smile on her face, exactly as it was happening at that moment. Ashton followed her gaze and saw the families. How did they get in here? Through the front door, Ilara said, smiling. As guests of the Living Roots Foundation. It was then that the IRS agents approached the stage. Mr. Ashton Thorne, you are under arrest. The hall exploded. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. But Ilara only had eyes for Finn, who was running toward her, holding the prophetic drawing in his small hands. 3 years later, Ilara stood at the entrance of the first Living Roots Foundation Community Opportunity Center, watching the morning activity. The building, constructed in the back of a former Thornmart store that was auctioned off after its bankruptcy, buzzed with activity. At the reception, Maya greeted visitors with the professional smile she had developed as general coordinator. In the back, former employees taught training courses. In the community library, children read while their parents attended professional retraining classes. Aunt Ilara, a familiar voice pulled her from her thoughts. Finn, now 12, ran toward her carrying a folder of drawings. He had grown, but maintained the same radiant smile. Hi, my favorite artist. What do you have there? The drawings for this afternoon's exhibition, want to see? Ilara leafed through the drawings. Finn's technique had evolved impressively. He depicted people working, studying, smiling. But in all the drawings, there was something common. Hope. Finn, these drawings are incredible. Are you sure you want to donate them to the charity auction? I am. You always say art serves to transform, right? Ilara smiled. At 12, Finn already understood concepts that had taken her decades to learn. Aunt Ilara, he continued more seriously, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy now? The question caught her by surprise. Ilara looked around. Maya organizing the appointment schedule. Grandma Celeste teaching embroidery to a group of women. Former Thornmart employees working in their new professions. You know, Finn, 3 years ago you made a drawing where I was smiling. Remember? I remember. You said you were going to be happy. Well then, that drawing came true. How? Because I learned that happiness isn't having everything you want. It's knowing that you make a difference in people's lives. Maya approached them. Ilara, The last guests for the ceremony have arrived. Are you ready? Ilara nodded. In a few hours, they would officially inaugurate the Foundation's second center. It would be the first entirely financed by donations and the income generated by the courses and activities themselves. Maya, have you ever thought that 3 years ago we were on opposite sides? Were we? Maya smiled. I think we were always on the same side. It just took you a while to realize. What if I hadn't realized? But you did. That's what mattered. Grandma Celeste joined the group. Ilara, can I give you some old woman's advice? Always. Stop asking what if. The important thing is what you did with the chance you had. And what did I do? Look around you, girl. Ilara looked. She saw John, the former stock clerk, now a logistics instructor. She saw Anna, the former cashier, coordinating the customer service course. She saw Serena organizing the Foundation's transparent accounting. You know none of this would have happened without you, right? Of course we know, Maya said. But you know none of this would have happened if you hadn't chosen to listen. In the afternoon, during the inauguration ceremony, Ilara was invited to speak. She went up to the small stage set up in the courtyard, looked at the audience of 100 people, former employees, their families, volunteers, supporters. 3 years ago, an 8-year-old boy asked me if he could eat the rest of my lunch. At that moment, I thought I was doing him a favor. Today, I know he was the one who did me a favor. She looked for Finn in the audience and found him in the front row next to Maya. Finn taught me that seeing is different from truly perceiving, that talent exists everywhere, it just lacks opportunity, and that sometimes the answer to our problems is right in front of us, we're just looking the wrong way. Applause echoed through the courtyard. The Living Roots Foundation was born from a simple perception. When a tree is cut down, its roots remain alive beneath the earth, and if given the right care, they can sprout even more beautiful flowers. Ilara paused, emotional. Every person here is proof that second chances are not just possible, they are necessary. That starting over is not failure, it's courage. And that when we help each other, we all grow. The applause intensified, but Ilara raised her hand for silence. But I want to make one thing clear. This is not my project. It never was. I merely helped plant the seeds. Those who made everything grow were you. Finn stood up in the audience. Aunt Ilara, can I say something? Of course, my dear. Thank you for seeing me, Aunt Ilara. No one saw us before. Ilara descended from the stage and hugged the boy, feeling tears of gratitude stream down her face. It was you who taught me to see, Finn. But it's everyone together who builds the change. As the sun set that afternoon, Ilara was sitting in the center's garden, watching families talking, children playing, people planning the future. Maya sat beside her. What are you thinking about? How life can change in 3 years. For the better? Infinitely for the better. And now? What are the next dreams? Ilara smiled, pointing to Finn, who was showing his drawings to a group of children. Now I want to see how many other Finns are out there just waiting for someone to truly see them. And will we see them? We will. Together. That night, when Ilara arrived home, she found an envelope that had been slipped under her door. Inside, a drawing by Finn showing the Foundation's center full of happy people, and a note. Aunt Ilara, thank you for teaching me that drawings can change the world. Now I know that people can too. With love, Finn. Ilara taped the drawing to the wall, next to the first one he had made of her. Between the two, 3 years of transformation, 3 years of discoveries, 3 years of learning about what truly matters in life. Looking at the drawings, Ilara finally understood the true lesson of that entire journey. It wasn't she who saved Finn and Maya. It was they who saved her. They saved her from an empty life, from superficial relationships, from an existence without purpose. Sometimes, Ilara thought, smiling, the people who most need help are those who think they are helping. And sometimes a simple child's drawing can light the way home.